Hi, everybody. Welcome to Next to Media. I'm Mike Shields, and my guest this week is Adam Singolda. He is the CEO of Taboola. Hey, Adam. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Good being here.
Great to talk to you because you are a person that will be, we'll talk about a range of things and have a take on everything. So I always appreciate that. So much going on, but I want to ask you about, we're kind of in this weird period now where we're waiting for what's next with the Google trial. It's been kind of fascinating though, and you've seen this played out. Are you do you think, what do you think about what is going to happen, realizing that this thing might get dragged on forever? And I don't know if we're going to feel the ramifications of the market right away, but where do you think this might be going? And are people in the industry bracing for something or moving on?
Yeah, talk about the first question, huh, Mike?
Jump right in.
Yeah, I don't want to be speaking on behalf of the DOJ. That's obviously above my pay grade. I can tell you the way I think about it is, there's a lot of things that Google is doing, that works obviously for advertisers. They have about 10 million advertisers who work with them. That obviously means they're doing something good for them because they stick around and they work. Yep. The things that, I'm always kind of bothered by or think are challenging to me, and being like this for a long time. One is that, Google for the life of them will have this sort of identity crisis with their partners. They would always prefer, I think, to keep a consumer within the Google ecosystem versus sending that person to a publisher, to journalism, to an app. And we've seen this, over the years, that was with publishers, then we've had e-commerce websites. Now with Gemini, we're being challenged with traffic.
There's more and more time on their stuff, less time on other places. Yeah, that you've seen.
And we never really know. Yeah, there's a misalignment because when someone sticks around within the Google ecosystem, they obviously have something to gain.
Yep.
And when they lose the consumer to a third party, which essentially built the internet as we know it now.
Right. And was their promise initially send you where you want? Yeah, that was.
So there's this forever conflict which creates anxiety because if you're a publisher, big or small, you over time, you grow to rely on that traffic. If you're an e-commerce website, big or small, you rely on that. And now with Gemini and the pressure that, Google is feeling from OpenAI, they, who knows what's going to happen. So I think that is one area of tension that I'm not sure how it gets resolved, if at all.
Right.
Then you have the advertiser community that obviously, like I said at the beginning, appreciates the value they get from Google, but they always have this challenge of they don't know, they have lack of transparency and lack of control. They don't know what is this black box really doing and how is it being spent. Is it being spent on owned and operated, or is it being spent elsewhere? And how do they make those decisions and who makes those decisions? And so there's this tension that exists for the most part, I think, not as a lack of value because Google creates perhaps the best value in our industry to advertisers, but rather from a human gap, which is control and transparency, which we as humans who operate businesses want.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of the puts and takes on that business, which now they're being, they're navigating, with the eyes of the government. But really,
very publicly, right?
We as an industry, we just want, I think, hopefully to see Google making more good decision versus bad decision as relates to us.
Now, you've been somebody that is close to publishers, supportive of publishers for a long time. You're right. Like Google has been friend and foe. But there is this anxiety and this, I don't understand how it works kind of feeling. But is there a sense that, because people shouted about some of these things that they're accused of for a long time, should this have happened years ago? Was the government too slow here? Was it just, did it have to accumulate? Where do you think what's the feeling among the market that you hear?
I don't know about the speed of the investigation, all that stuff, but there's also multiple investigations there too.
Yeah.
So, again, it's not my field. I think to me, what I always hope companies that the size of Google choose to do is to put out their identity, their culture, their policies about who they always promise to be, how they always promise to protect their partners and clients in a way that they can rely on them. Because right now I can tell you, we work at Taboola with, call it 9,000 publishers and, 15 to 20,000 advertisers. I constantly hear about what's going to happen with Gemini. Will traffic go away? I get this question all the time. I get this question all the time about transparency and control. How do we know? How is our money being spent and how will that change over time? Can we rely on that? Can we hire more employees because we know that line of revenue is consistent or not? I hear that all the time. And I think this is, I hope that as Taboola, I can tell you, we're now, almost $2 billion in revenue guidance this year. I hope that we'll forever have an opportunity to be transparent with people around us.
Yeah.
This is who we are, and this is how we hope to be forever, especially as you become bigger.
So that's really interesting that you're hearing that all the time. It's not easy time to be, it's never been easy to be a digital publisher. It's not easy now, certainly. You got this anxiety you got the cookie thing going on. What's going to happen with Google? What's going to happen with AI? The made for advertising thing. There's all this noise, and not to make this podcast and start out incredibly negative, but, there's a lot of talk about should we worry about the open web and is it viable? Do you feel that? And are brands, is that motivating to brands? We can't walk away from the open web. It's important versus I got to worry about my own goals and stuff.
No, I can tell you what I tell my partners, our clients, and investors as well. I was never more optimistic about the open web, and for the following few reasons. One, when you look at the AI revolution and how far are we from adopting AI fully, it is unbelievably far away from us.
Okay.
If you look at publishers, big or small, how much of their business overall is optimized using AI? Very little.
Even as much as there's talk, it's very little.
I mean, there's so much to do. Are we really personalizing the experience for consumers like TikTok does? Are we really offering you lifetime value journey so that sometimes you see commerce, sometimes you see video, sometimes we'll offer you an email subscription? We're so far away from that.
Right.
But as I look at, still the engagement of most publishers, and again, not to get too specific, but, call it the average publisher, they get between 1 to 2 pages per session.
Right.
So that means the average person reads 1 to 2 articles, maybe. That's not enough.
No.
They should read 3, 4, 5, 10, 20.
Yeah, that's a fleeting moment to grab them.
It's not enough. And it's not for lack of value, because publishers, and going back to the reason why I'm optimistic. So one, I think we can do so much more with AI. Two, I think in the world of social networks and TikToks and all of those, news and quality news, plays such an important role for humanity. I mean, we never want our children to discover things that matter, like science or healthcare or technology, or news, to be discovered by user-generated content environments when there's no policy, no editorial.
Right.
God help us all.
That's scary. Yeah.
Right. So, and I think you're seeing iconic platforms agree, right? You're looking at companies like, Apple, Samsung, and other great iconic brands who surface news to consumers. Why do they do that?
They're prioritizing it for a reason, right?
Because they think it matters. It matters to consumers. It matters to our future. Again, that's my belief. I'm not speaking on behalf of them. I believe they do it because they think it plays an important role for consumers and the type of decisions they can make and in the engagement they can have. So I'm looking at that. I'm saying that's encouraging to me. Okay. I imagine that over time we'll see news in, Tesla should have news in every car.
Sure.
We're going to see many great companies saying, well, we should have personalized news within our systems. So AI, lack of yet of adoption, excites me and gives me, optimistic point of view. I think that we're going to see a whole new slew of distribution channels, not only search and social. We're going to see users discovering news in their car, in their kitchen, on their phone, on all of those trusted environments. And third, I think that the ARPU, the revenue per person, is too small today.
Yeah.
Today we're making money a little bit from display, a little bit from native, a little bit from, maybe subscription.
Right. But they got to get those numbers better or it's going to
be. We need to grow. Look, compare this. Meta makes about $200 a year in the US per person. $200.
Right.
Think of how much money you pay for Spotify, for your Netflix, and you're still not getting numbers.
No.
It's
pretty amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, they're so good at it. Can we be 10% as good? Can we be 20% as good? I'm not saying let's be as good as Meta, but can we, as an open web community, as we look to improve our data connections and diversification of revenue and use of AI, can we be, $20, $30? Can we get there? Because I think right now, my estimate, we're in the single digit.
Yeah.
Well, so I think there's an ARPU expansion opportunity. So between AI, distribution, and revenue per person, from 1 to 10, we are at 2. We can get so much better.
Right. But that sort of implies to me that you're any one individual publisher or even big media company, it's really hard to compete with the kind of tools you're talking about. Does the industry, the publishing industry, I guess, need to collaborate more so they can get this benefit you're talking about from AI and trying to get the ARPU up? Can anybody do that on their own?
I don't think we can collaborate. I don't think we have to in this case. I'll tell you why. Funny enough, publishers, like most humans, we tend to change a lot of times only if we have to.
Yeah.
And we may reach that moment in time with the growth of ChatGPT and OpenAI and with the growth of other LLMs, that offer different distribution to consumers. And of course, search engines that are now adopting generative AI. We may have reached a point in which we have to change.
Yeah.
And we have to evolve and do things a bit differently. And I think that's exciting. So to me, would we enjoy, kind of like a collaborative approach? Yes. But maybe even our own internal metrics, our own internal dashboards, maybe those are enough for us to say, now we're going to do things just a little bit different, and it's going to drive enough growth to get us going and move up and right over the next few years.
Do you think it's one of the would-be saviors of the open web digital publishing is retail media? This idea that you're going to go off site and all those companies that have done really well, turning into advertising companies on their own properties are going to go outside and find those people all over the place. So I wonder if you think that's realistic, but I also wonder if you think we're going, as an industry, going a little bit too far with retail media.
Retail media has something that I think is unique to it and something that will grow a lot over time. So from a supply perspective, it's a fairly concentrated industry. You're looking at, 5 to 10 big retailers, obviously the largest two, and then the next 5, 10.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of small ones. Yeah.
And they probably equate to, and I don't know the numbers, but most.
Yeah.
The vast majority of commerce. So from that perspective, to me, it's less exciting to necessarily imagine what you can do with them. They'll do whatever they need to do. They're big enough.
Yeah.
To run their own show. However, from a budget perspective and, audience extension point of view, I can imagine many of them will need sort of third-party sources of supply,
right,
reach consumers and get growth. Similar to how, Google, when search needed more supply, they've launched their
network. Yeah.
Their network. Very so similar. I expect we'll see something similar here. And in that respect, we'll see a lot of, growth coming from retail media as a source of demand to many publishers, many apps, many maybe CTV. We're going to see retail media kind of like, expanding their reach. And that can be billions and tens of billions of dollars. So that can be significant. So the supply side, I think a bit concentrated, and my guess long-term, they do what they need to do.
Yeah.
And then from a budget perspective, I think there's going to be an opportunity to work with them to kind of provide value to those retailers and consumers to find great, products and offerings.
Yeah.
So that I think is exciting because again, we're at the very beginning of it from that perspective.
Right. You mentioned news and Apple. Can you talk about the deal you guys made with Apple pretty recently?
Yeah. I wanted to just say it's very exciting. It's exciting because I feel like we're entering this, before I even speak about that specifically, we're entering this area where advertising is just it's the new pink, it's just so exciting. You're seeing.
It's funny because it was at one point, hated almost, like get away from me. And now everyone's into it. It is really true.
Because the reason is if you're doing advertising right, it's great.
Yeah.
But I give an example. I think that Instagram ads are great. I like those. I click on them. I buy things from them. I would pay Instagram $1 a month to see more ads.
Yeah.
I would be happy to pay to see more.
They're like the magazines of the past where you enjoyed the advertising as much as you did the content a lot of times. But
yeah, and search ads are fine too. So when they create value to you and they're relevant, or they, kind of open your chakras to say, oh, I didn't know I like that. Not only it's okay, it's actually value creative.
Sure.
So from that perspective, I think it was always the same. When it's done right, it's great. And when it's not done right, it's hateful. And and we've seen things that we didn't like over the years. So from that perspective, hopefully this is more of the good type of advertising. And remember, when advertising is done right, it's an opportunity to expand your offering, making it more available, more affordable, new territories, lower price options for consumers. So it's a very good thing for consumers when done right. So this is my level set. And what I'm really liking as a participant in this ecosystem, much like you, and you and I have been here for quite some time.
Yes, we have.
Is that you're seeing this whole new type of companies that say we can do advertising, we want to do more of it, and we want to do it the right way.
Right.
And for me, I feel fortunate to be considered, to work with companies like Yahoo, a year and a half ago that we started a 30-year journey. When I raised money for Taboola in 2007, Yahoo was not in my target addressable market. I never thought anyone was going to work with Yahoo.
Yeah.
And I never thought, anyone's going to work with Apple or anyone's going to work with Microsoft. And now these are fantastic partners that we not only get to work with, we get to learn from, as they, run as very, exciting companies on their own. So I think this is my level set is, wow, if you're listening to this and you run a startup that's in advertising or an investor investing in advertising, or you're a publisher or an advertiser, I think we are entering this second act of our industry where the future is going to be more than Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of great iconic companies that want to participate in our ecosystem.
And a reinvention of what we're talking about when we're talking about advertising.
So this is a good day to be listening to this podcast.
Okay.
And then just specifically with Apple, we're again honored and really to be working with a company like Apple. And specifically what we're doing with them is we're powering advertising for Apple News in 4 markets where Apple News is available, US, UK, Canada, and Australia. And you can see us if you're in that market and you open your iPhone, you may see an ad either on your main feed or as you're reading a piece of content from one of your favorite publishers. And again, what's great is that not only, it's, hopefully sizable, and we mentioned publicly, we're a public company now. So we mentioned it could be one of our bigger partners over time. It's just more of an opportunity to attract even more quality advertisers. It's an opportunity to get further validation that, advertising is an opportunity for businesses to grow the right way and be in front of users that are having, these products. So we're still early.
Yep.
This was announced earlier this year, but it has a lot of great momentum. Advertisers love it. And for me, I had this moment in Cannes. I said this publicly as well, that we met Apple, and it was me and my team. And it was one of those moments, when you're a founder of a company, you have moments, when you kind of have to pinch yourself.
Whoa. They're actually talking to me here.
And remind yourself that it's real. This is actually a real moment. And I'm sitting there and I'm almost having I'm looking from the side, and my team is there, and Apple is just telling us how happy they are with the partnership and they're honored to work with us. And I'm like, I couldn't believe how nice this moment is, and how big our dreams should be over time.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of big dreams, we were talking about AI a lot and the anxiety and the unknown. Tell us what Abby is and what we should be thinking about there.
Did you see the video?
I saw some of it.
It's 4 minutes, Mike. I mean, come on. You can give us 4 minutes.
I have a short attention span, as you know.
Okay. I'll send you a story version of that.
Yes, please.
Vertical 30-second version on that. So for those who have not seen it, check it out. It's 4 minutes. I promise you it's going to be fun and entertaining. Basically taking a step back, when I look at the advertiser journey, and specifically, by the way, the open web, Google has 10 million advertisers. Facebook has about the same.
Right. I'm
looking at the open web, we're the number is much, much smaller. To give you an example, Taboola, which we're guiding for almost $2 billion in revenue, we have about 15 to 20,000 advertisers, and we are considered a fairly large.
Yeah. That sounds terrific, but relative to those guys, it's crazy, but.
Right. So as I look into the journey of how do you get, advertisers to become successful advertisers? In fact, how do you get businesses to become successful advertisers so they can find growth, which is the common theme for all businesses in the history of time? We all want the same thing, growth. So it's the American dream. You have an idea, you start your small business, it becomes bigger business over time. You hire employees, so it's such an amazing, inspirational part of, to me, even being in this country and on this journey. I love that so much. However, my wife has a flower business, which has been running for a bunch of time now, and she's doing well. And I ask her, what's your CPA? What's your CPM?
Yeah.
What's your CPC? And she's like, what the heck are you talking about?
How could you not think this way? What?
She said, CPA, we have the same accountant. What are you talking CPA?
Right.
So we're married. So I mean, I bet you that if you ask many mid-sized businesses, that have good sized business.
Yeah.
And you tell them, come join, advertise with us. If you talk ad tech to them, they would not understand what you're talking about. They can speak to you about their own metrics. They don't know how to speak to you about your metrics. And I think it's
as much as we think this is like the whole industry, the whole world is advanced like this. They're not there, most of them.
Yeah. And we're following, Terry Kawaja's Lumascape, and we think this is the entire planet. It's not.
Right.
It's our map. It's not their map.
Mm-hmm.
And their map is driven by their own metrics. So I think with the revolution of generative AI, and in general, as we're looking to make the process easy for businesses to become successful advertisers, we wanted to, in the front end, at the very beginning, add a conversational layer so that you can talk to us about your business as if you're talking to your friend in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And just tell us what is it that what you're trying to do. You can say, I'm selling, I'm in the fashion industry. I have a store in Manhattan. I have an e-commerce website, but I really want my site to be more digital. Okay. And then you can say, I need to grow. My average product is $500. Right. I know. My margin is 30%. I know how much I can afford.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't start with more than 10,000 a month. That's what I can afford now. Is that enough? How much do people like me spend? I know you have all these questions, and this is literally the level of conversation you can have with Abby, which is what we launched. And by the end of it, Abby will essentially have a campaign ready for you to go on Taboola.
So instead of filling out a long form with all these questions and you get it to somebody and they help filter you somehow, this is like filtering this person in real time and then also producing something for them to use.
Yeah, it's Don Draper. If you watch Mad Men, it's the ultimate account manager that is in fact not only the expert of Taboola's technology, they're the expert of your industry because they have looked at 1,000 clients like you.
Right.
They'll say, by the way, you should use this thumbnail for your campaign. You approve it. That's what I think. And by the way, we should really make it at the daily cap to get $1,000, no more, so you can learn. And then let's make it. And it will imitate all of those advices. And by the end of it, what we've seen is your campaign will be live about 75% faster. You don't get the frustration of making a mistake. A lot of advertisers, when they work with Taboola, they come up with creatives that are being not approved.
Yeah.
Because we can't support, they may say, if you buy this coat, it will forever be warm. Not true. Now,
right. So you get all the way to the end and they have the wrong creative and then it slows everything down. So this would stop that theoretically.
It will just, it was a precursor for this whole thing it's the best practices, the best data driven approach. It's fast, it's conversational, and it's fun. So the Abby, we recorded this 4-minute video and I walk the streets of New York and I walk into a bakery and a fashion store and I walk into my wife's, which is the hardest client.
Oh, sure.
She's very tough. So especially with me. And the goal was just to introduce Abby to them, and have their campaign launch. And my hope is that Abby is just one step on this puzzle that Taboola is trying to pursue of growing from 15, 20,000 advertisers to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and becoming a must buy for big, mid, and small size businesses.
How do you let them know about it? That's got to be one of the hardest things. I mean, you can walk around New York all you want, but that's not going to scale and it's not easy. Everybody knows Facebook and Google, these small businesses. How do you get this out there?
It's a great question. There are multiple channels to kind of reach potential businesses. One of our larger kind of way of people discovering us is the by Taboola. Go to any one of the publishers, many of the best publishers on earth who work with Taboola, NBC, CBS, Yahoo, Today, McClatchy, Fox Sport, many, many great, that work with us. There's a by Taboola for disclosure purposes next to the recommendation and ads.
Yep.
A lot of advertisers who see an ad on those loved publishers click on it and they start with the self-service process. So that's one way. And in the self-service, Abby will now be introduced.
Oh, that's cool.
We're going to actually spend money ourselves to reach to businesses and try to acquire businesses that way. And of course, we have our sellers. We operate a fairly large sales organization, about 600-700 people around the world, sellers and account managers that will reach clients and introduce Abby. And over time, Abby's intuition, I think the intuition we have when you hear about Abby is more of a small to mid-size
Mm-hmm.
In fact, over time, I think Ebu will be mostly used, or at least equally used, by big advertisers who would want an generative AI machine-like account manager.
Yeah.
Think about them all the time. I was like, what if I had 1 million account managers at Taboola? Would I be better? Of course I would be better.
Yeah.
I don't have 1 million.
A little costly, but yes.
But what if I could? And perhaps this is my 1 million account managers vision strategy, that I can now give so much AM power to my clients.
To that point, you're talking about mostly small and mid-sized businesses, and maybe you level up. But it is interesting. You're seeing this move towards more. Well, the generative AI, I think, is very exciting. The media buying and planning optimization with the AI-driven aspect of that is moving fast, especially with Performance Max and Advantage Plus, and this potentially is. In your view, is that there's different points of view in that? That's good. Smarter media buying, faster decision making, but then that scares people. You're giving up the role of the brand and media agency, and there's control and mistakes. I guess that's a big way of asking, like, where do you see this trend of AI driven media buying going, and what are the challenges there?
I think so here's what I think it's going to expand our growth rates. The industry will grow faster.
Okay.
More advertisers and more businesses and more publishers will succeed. We spoke about some of those trends. We spoke about AI adoption on the publisher side, AI adoption, the use of AI for lifetime value optimization and revenue diversification. We spoke about new distribution channels on the publisher side.
Yep.
On the advertiser side, we spoke about lower churn rates and higher net dollar retentions, also known as spend, because if I can succeed faster, I churn less.
Yeah.
And if I'm successful and have this account manager, I spend more. So, we sprinkled a bunch of things that can make things better. To me, that means more jobs, more companies, get founded, more money being invested. And as I look at our own, and let me speak about something I know dearly, which is our own people. What I hope is that over time, they get to spend less time optimizing CPCs for their clients. And because a machine can do it at least as good. And I want them to spend less time interacting about why this title was rejected and this title should be
right. Little headachy things that are probably
it's mundane things that my amazing super Avenger team deals with. Whereby I think what they could do is come up with new strategies to say. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a bottom of the funnel advertiser. You buy with a less click attribution to make a purchase, like an e-commerce buyer, and you have a great account manager that helps you manage that and make sure your spend is stable. But if that account manager had more time, maybe they could have said, if we had a mid-funnel campaign that is worth testing, we could warm up the funnel so that your leads would become cheaper.
Yeah.
On my current campaign, you can get more conversions for the same price. What do you think about that? And the client would say, well, that's a great idea. How much should I spend? Give me $10,000. Let's see if directionally I'm right.
Right.
Even if that account manager failed, that was a great exercise of partnership and being human, because that's what you expect relationship to be part of.
Yep.
And so to me, the black boxness, which traditionally makes us feel, itchy.
Yep.
Is mainly only itchy if it comes with lack of control and lack of transparency. So long that the box is it's still a black box in the sense of it's great. It does the magic,
Yeah.
But it gives me as an account manager and as a client understanding of what's going on and an ability to control it if I want to.
Right. But you're not talking about getting rid of 1,000 people and not having any of these important strategic jobs anymore. That's not where you're hoping this goes or seeing this go.
No, I think we're doubling and tripling those.
Yeah.
The teams, I think agencies have more people over time. I think companies like Taboola have more people over time.
Interesting.
And it's because they think the churn rates are going down.
Yeah.
The average spend per client is going up. And I think publishers are going up. And when things go up, generally more jobs are being created, more funding takes place. And I think that's how I'm optimistic about. I think this podcast will be remembered as the early days of the second act of this.
I feel good. This is taking a very positive turn at the beginning.
Even though it started with, Mike Shields, after more than a decade of friendship, saying he did not have 4 minutes to watch a video. Even though that's
and why is everything wrong with the world?
Despite of that, we're still very optimistic.
Yes. This is a left turn, but I want to ask you about one thing because you mentioned it. You and I talked about this recently, actually. You mentioned thinking about partnering with Yahoo, and that if you were told that in 2008, and how different things were. I did not see. If you asked me a couple years ago, I didn't see a great ending for Yahoo. It seemed like it was going the wrong direction. It's been pretty remarkable since the Apollo deal. What do you make of that, and what do you hear about? You hear really good things about that Apollo experience, like that. How did that happen? How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of Yahoo, but I can tell you what I did say and what I strongly believe that is relevant. And actually, I just said it on a panel 2 weeks ago at Zeta Global panel with Linda from X and John Scully from Zeta, and it was Dan Anthony interviewed us, and I spoke about it with everyone. It almost doesn't matter how big or small is your company. Mm-hmm. The value of a management team and then the team at large that has a culture of execution, an ability to be transparent with each other, that is passionate and almost obsessed about something, versus a company that has less of it, is remarkably. It's amazing how different the outcome looks like.
It really matters, that stuff.
And I think that as a reminder, 100% of people listening to this podcast, very much including you and me, Mike, is that we're all fairly average people.
Yes.
None of us wrote the Mazurka at the age of 6, which Chopin did. And none of us, wrote a symphony for 30 people at the age of 5, like Mozart. None of us will ever do that.
Right.
Those were prodigies.
I'm barely trying here in this podcast. Yeah, I'm coasting.
No, you're doing very well, and you're definitely one of the best ones. But I'm saying the difference between being the best versus failing is not about being a prodigy. It's about execution, passion, culture, making more good decision versus bad decision. And this is a long way of saying that, and I'm not speaking ill about people before, but Yahoo went through many, many, many different, permutations and iterations. But the current version they have, which is, Reed and Apollo on the board, and then Jim and Matt and Rob who just joined them. And these people are very, very good, and they're very good together.
Yeah, that matters too.
And for us, from the sidelines, we get to work with them and see how aggressive they are about where things are going. And that's nice because you want to work with people that want to break things and go up. And I'm very, again, feeling lucky that Yahoo couldn't work with anyone. And I feel lucky that we got to do this together for, even though I wanted 50 years, but Apollo negotiated down to 30.
Okay.
It's good, and I'm happy. And I think I'm very optimistic about how things can go.
All right. Well, so here's to 30 really good years coming up. I'm feeling excited and optimistic now. Adam, awesome conversation. Thank you so much for your time here. Let's talk again soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.